I'm going to be sharing 5 new digital tools that I found that could be useful to me in my classroom, and they may even be useful to you as well. The first website that I found to be useful is uniteforliteracy.com, and this is a pretty neat website where they encourage students to be lifelong readers and the access to books at all times. So they're able to access this at home, they're able to access this at school, and as well as celebrating different languages and cultures. A big pro that I found to this, which is pretty neat, is that it is free. No account needs to be made. The teacher does not need to make an account, or the parent. So students can access this at any time from home or at school or wherever they are, and they don't need to pay anything extra to be able to use any of the features on here, which is pretty cool. This is the website where it has up here the different languages that you can change the stories into, which is cool. If you put Spanish or Ukrainian, all the books will change to that language that you select, as well as the different narration languages. A big pro I found this is pretty cool. There's a ton of different languages, that you can change the stories into, which I thought was pretty neat as well. If I click here on Who is in the Ocean, the navigations as well to reading the story are pretty simple and easy. There's nothing extra that children need to do in order to navigate the story. It's pretty straightforward. It has an arrow here in order to transition to the next page. Down here you have the translation. So if you click on the speaker, the narration will read the story to you, or the page. Something else that I found to be pretty neat on this, and it is a pretty big pro, especially if you have English language learners in the classroom. If you translate it to English and you would like it to be translated to another language, if you click on here and change that language that you wanted it to be narrated to, it'll go right next to go down to the bottom. And so you won't need to flip-flop back and forth between 2 languages. So you can have a student listen to it first in English and then maybe see how it sounds in Spanish, or vice versa. And as well as you would like the story to be in the written language of Spanish, and you would like them to then listen to it in English, they can do that as well, which I thought was pretty neat. This website is geared towards a lot more younger readers, so a lot of the stories are pretty easy reads. And as well as I said, I thought about using it as well with those English language learners as well. A con of the website, though, is that, like as I said, it is geared towards a lot more younger readers, so a lot of them are easier reads. So it'll kind of be difficult to select stories that may be in order to challenge those higher level students. So this is more of like those low level readers or your EL learners that you would like to access this website. Another con as well is the written text. Unlike the narration where there's a ton of different languages, there is only 3, English language and Ukrainian. So it'll be nice to see more written languages, but that was one con. And then another one is that when the story is being narrated with the stories being narrated, it won't highlight or pinpoint exactly where the narration is in the story. It'll kind of just read it out loud, and students will have to know where the narrator is in the story. And that is uniteforliteracy.com. The second digital resource that I found to be pretty cool as well is dugonews.com. This is nice as it has a lot of current events that are going on, and it goes along the subjects of ELA, science, and social studies. So if you click over here, it shows you the different categories that you can go to find the different articles. You can search them by word count as well. And it does have Dugo Books, which I will explain that in just a second. If you click on an article, it has a lot of different cool tools that the student can use as they're reading the article. It does have the standard alignment for the teacher, how many minutes the narration will be if a student chooses to listen to the article, the different reading levels. So if you want to keep the article in the original, or if you want it more simplified this is good for the lower level readers, and the different languages between English and Spanish. And this is linked to, you can link your Google Classroom, so you can link the Google Classroom to a specific article. And then if a teacher chooses to print the article as well, they can just click print, and then it'll print it out as well. I thought it was really neat, as there's different vocabulary words that are bolded. So if a student chooses to select a bolded word, it'll pop out with the definition of the word, and the student can see what that word means. If you go down as well, sometimes some of the articles do have a video that that a student can watch, and it does relate to the article, so they can have a little bit more knowledge about what the article was about. And then what I thought was pretty cool as well is, if they have since they have all the different vocabulary words on the article, they have a little play game feature where a student can play a game, and it does relate to all the vocabulary words that were on the article. Another pro that I saw as well was that a student can react to the article as well. They can look at all the different comments from different children about the article, and see what their thoughts were on the article, and share what their own thoughts were. And I thought was pretty cool. Something else I thought that was pretty neat as well, as they have learning activities. If you click on viewing learning activities, you can change the different narration on it, and then it does have classroom activities that go along with the article, quizzes, comprehension questions, and different vocabulary activities that go along with the article as well. And it does, like I said, Dugo News does have Dugo Books. And just like I said, as students can interact with the article, Dugo Books does allow students to review and look at other reviews of books that, maybe they plan on reading in the future. They can review books on books they've read and share their opinions on the books. And I thought that was pretty neat. Even though you can go into the website and look at the articles and print it out, and a big con to it was, even though it's pretty cool, there is only a 7-day free trial. So you would have to pay for any of the extra features being able to access, such as the learning activities, being able to translate the story or see the story in Spanish. You are able to print out the articles for free, but if you want to be able to use all the extra features, you would have to purchase it, which I thought was a bummer. The next digital tool that I found to be absolutely cool, and I absolutely loved exploring it, was ListenWise. ListenWise takes podcasts from different podcast websites and different podcast applications and puts them in a place that teachers can use them, and kind of helps them guide, different lessons. So if you go to Lessons, it gives you all the different podcasts that they have, different current event podcasts that students can listen to. It gathers collections of the podcasts, so kind of categorizing podcasts together. You can have favorites. It allows you to look through your classes library, and this is for 2nd through 12th grade. So you can even see the different standards that the podcasts align to. So if you go to all lessons and you click the lessons, you can click the podcast lessons. So for example, here we have Fabulous Fungi, and this is cool as well, as they have podcasts specifically for English language learners as well. And something I found neat, pro, is that it does tell you the EL standard that it correlates to. It has the different lexile measures that students will listen to, and I found it pretty neat, decent as well, as they're not too long. All of them are, I would say, between about 2 to about the longest, maybe some 10 minutes. So they're not long. So students that way are able to interact productively with the podcast, and they won't get bored. So you can listen to the story, and most of them have some type of transcript that you can read, that students can maybe read as they're listening to the podcast. Assignment resources that go along with it, a teacher's guide, and some type of quiz that you can assign as students are listening to the podcast. And I thought that was really cool. Something else that I found really neat was, if you go to the ESL ones, and if you click on the ESL one, the ESL one will have some type of background knowledge to the podcast, so they can read about what the podcast is about, which is typically in all the podcasts on here. You'll have something that tells you about what the podcast is about, but specifically for the ELD podcast, it'll give some type of like background knowledge to the student about what they're going to listen about, or something that they should know about before they listen to the story, which I thought was pretty neat. So a con to it though that I found so sad was it only allows you a 14-day free trial. So you would have to purchase it, have the district purchase it, or your school, or get some type of quote for your classroom to be able to use the resource, which was pretty sad. But I found this to be really cool as well. Something else neat that I found was if you go to the 14 day trial, and if you go to the podcast, it actually does tells you the source of the podcast, so you can click on it and see like where this podcast is coming from, which is pretty nice as well. So then that way you can students can explore more about the information on the podcast. Another neat digital tool that I found was rewordify.com, and this is really neat as it takes students can take different texts and different web pages and copy and paste it, and then it'll then simplify it into a way that students will be able to understand what it is that they are reading. So here is an example. I copy and pasted. This is the original text at the bottom, and then up here you can see that it was translated into a more simplified way by changing some of the vocabulary words in order for students to understand what it is that they are reading. It takes some of the words and it highlights them, and then that allows students to go into a different right here where it says want to learn new words. It takes them to different activities and flashcards that students can go into in order to learn those new words, and as well as it allows different printing and learning activities that teachers can print to go along with that text. And then it does label different parts of speech as well from the from that text that was copy and pasted, which I thought was pretty cool. It does have a lot of different information that teachers can use on how they can use this website in their classroom, and as well as providing teachers a way that they can create a profile and create profiles for students as well, and how to use data on this with the different vocabulary words that students may come across. So I thought that was really neat as well. A con to it is that it is not visually appealing, so there's not very much images or anything that goes along with like the vocab words that are introduced or at all. Something that is cool, I thought that was nice, was that it is child safe, so you won't see any ads or anything around the website that students may become distracted with, or may accidentally click on. So I thought that was pretty neat as well. But like I said, a con is it's not very visually appealing, and then as well as another con is sometimes some of the things are a little bit difficult to navigate. So for example, like some of the text, I found that some of the text to speech, some of them worked and some of them did not. So that was pretty difficult. And because there are so many features on this, it's kind of hard to navigate where a little bit of everything is. The next digital tool that I found was readworks.com, which is really cool as there's different articles and ebooks that teachers and students have access to and to read. And so this is really nice. If you click on it, you can go ahead and it'll give you to all the different articles there is here, the different ebooks that there is. So if I click on an ebook on this website, it'll take me to the different ebooks that there is and are provided. So if I click architecture is all around, most of them have a text to speech that students can listen to, and they can follow along to. It'll give details about the story, the subject that goes along with it, grade level, how many words are included, the lexile level, is it fiction, nonfiction, and different vocabulary words that students will encounter, as well as a vocabulary activity, different question sets. And then specifically with the ebook, it'll give them the ebook to that ebook selected, and then the same thing with the articles are pretty much the same as the ebooks, except there is no ebook included with the article. And it's pretty neat, as well as in the side there is the filters, so you can go ahead and filter out and be more specific to what it is that you're looking for. And the teachers, as an educator, you can create a free account and link it to your Google Classroom. And it's pretty neat as you can assign things to students, and the students will be able to open it up and you can see the progress on students, on the quiz and how they interacted with the vocabulary activity and so on. So I thought that was pretty neat. And then you can print them out as well, the different articles, which is pretty cool as well. And a con I found to it was it's a little hard to navigate because of all the different resources there is on here, and as well as there's no really like a student version to it, so you can't really see what the student will be seeing on their end. But I thought this was a really neat resource as well.